All right. Hello, friends. It's so good to see you. Thanks to those of you who are joining us live today, and hello to those who are going to be watching the meeting recording. It's going to be a really exciting year. I want to just note that on the My First Books website, you can find a note-taking version of this presentation. Uh, that's libraries.idaho.gov/read-to-me/myfirstbooks. You can download those if you'd like and take notes on them today or print them out, or just go back and reference them at another time later. Before we get started with our agenda today, I want to just acknowledge that the My First Books program is supported with both state appropriated funds and federal funds from the IMLS through the Library Services and Technology Act. I also want to reiterate that this orientation is for those who have done the program recently. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on requirements and processes, so if there's content that we discuss that's new to you and you need further details, consider attending one of the training sessions for new staff where we'll go over everything in a lot more detail. So if you haven't had a chance yet in the chat, introduce yourself, your library, how many years you've been doing the program, and something you're looking forward to this year. All right, I want to introduce, we have a new, fairly new team this year. As you know, Tina retired. So looking forward to working with this new group. I'm Stacy Shaw, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the Youth Services Consultant here at ICFL. I'm coordinating the Read to Me programs and all things early learning. Josie has worked on this program in the past. Josie, you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Josie. I'm the Youth Services Program Specialist, and I just do a lot of support. I order all those fabulous books that you get in the mail and kind of coordinate all the shipping on this.
Thank you. Yes, Josie has ordered quite a few books this year, and we could not do this program without that support. I also want to introduce our new administrative assistant, Candace.
Hello, I'm coming from the Talking Books team, and now I'm joining the Youth Services team as the admin assistant. So I'm going to be helping out with a lot of the different programs, including the My First Books.
Thank you, Candace. And Candace is still kind of doing her other job right now. She's just kind of stepping in here and there. We're going to be um, kind of letting her have a soft start and not overwhelm her at first and bring her in. But by the end of the year, she is going to be kind of the main administrative assistant for this program. We also have Emily Riggin, who will be basically boxing all of your materials up and doing all of the shipments this year. So kind of whereas Tina kind of did it all because she'd done the program for 17, 18 years, we're going to split that up a little bit this year. So, but that's us. And instead of taking time today to go through and have you all introduce yourselves, because there's lots of you, we went ahead and asked you to do a little intro in the chat. So you can scroll through that and see who all is here today. And then we have an activity that I'll share with you toward the end that I'm going to give you until the end of September so that you can introduce yourself in another way and we can all get to know each other a little bit better. So some exciting things for this year. First of all, I want to just say that this program is celebrating 30 years. It's our 30th anniversary. It started back in the 1990s with Stephanie Bailey White, who is now our state librarian. And every year we kind of tweak it and grow it. And we're really looking forward to this 30th anniversary. Glad that we were able to do the program this year. Funding uncertainties made processing applications kind of challenging this year. We started with being able to serve about 1,400 kids with only given our state funds. In May, we were given some additional federal funds that had to be spent within just a few weeks by June. And that allowed us to serve about 3,000 children. So Josie and I ordered several titles based on the numbers that we had at that point. Then in June, when our budgets were set, we received more funding, allowing us to serve about 4,400 children this year. So while we are celebrating the ability to serve more children, the process did present some unique challenges that we'll discuss later today. And I do want to stress how grateful I am to ICFL's management team and leadership for their support of this flagship program and doing kind of everything they can to try to make sure that we have funds to be able to support more kids. So grateful for that. As always, we like to just start our orientation, even though you're returning staff, with reminding you of what our outcomes for this program are. We definitely, I mean, this is a book distribution program, but unlike programs like Dolly Parton Imagination Library, we are focusing in on not just increasing access to books. We want to really target those kids who are not utilizing library services or likely to have books in the home. We are really focusing in on trying to increase those Idaho kids' early literacy skills, but we're also focusing in on the parents and caregivers. We want them to increase their knowledge about early literacy, and we want them to be able to use that knowledge to increase the kinds of literacy activities that they're able to do in the home. Then we want to help you strengthen your community partnerships. And I think most importantly, we want you to be able to develop personal relationships with the kids that you are serving at the partner sites and their families, because that is really what we all know now is what gets those families to become library users and come in and see you and develop those personal relationships that put a face to the library. Whenever you have a question about the program, whether or not something qualifies eligible for your early literacy event or how you do your distributions, come back to these outcomes first. And if you're still able to meet these outcomes, it's probably okay to, flex or be unique with how you're delivering the program. And if you still have questions, you can always reach out to me. All right, so last year we made this change and it worked fairly well. I've read through all of the final reports that you've submitted from last year. And we moved everything last year to this program toolkit on our website. Everything is here, training materials, links, and resources. It's fairly easy to use. It does take some getting used to, and it's embedded right on the website. So this is the program toolkit. Whenever we refer to the program toolkit, this is what we're referring to. This toolkit that's on our public-facing website is only you can only view and print and download from here. It's non-interactive, which means nobody can leave a comment, nobody can add any content. And this is our public-facing one. So we want to, when you get to the website, you want to make sure to expand using that little arrow in the top right corner there to make sure that you have the full view of everything that is in the toolkit. You can access everything that you need here electronically. So if you want to read more about how to get more library cards to kids or any of those things, you can just access it digitally. Or if you, in the past, we used to provide binders of materials, and if you really like your binder and you like to have the hard copies like me, you can print what you need straight from here, from this Padlet platform. We made it easy if you want to print your training materials all together, so you don't have to click on each thing individually. So as we did last year, there are complete PDFs of everything you need for either a full set if you're creating a new binder, or if you just want to print the materials that we updated. And to know which ones we updated, you would look at this table of contents, and anything in blue is something that we updated this year. So you know that everything there in that updated program binder is only those things that are listed in blue. Also this year, and I took this feedback from some final reports, I put a little instruction guide here on how to print and download documents from Padlet. I know it's not always easy. It's one of my main complaints about this platform. It doesn't make it super easy, and depending on the type of document you have to print it differently, which is also an issue I have. But there's a new little handy guide that you can check out that will kind of show you, depending on what kind of document it is, how you're supposed to print that. All the training materials and links to the training sessions are at the top right now, so that's the first thing you see. But in a couple weeks, when we're moving past these orientation sessions and trainings, I'll move those down to the very bottom of the list. If you need to access the meeting recording from today, it'll be uploaded right here under Returning Staff Meeting Recording from 8:20. So you can always go back if you can't remember what I said about something and scroll through and find that in today's meeting. Since you are all returning staff and you used this toolkit last year, I'm not going to demonstrate how to use it today. If you did not participate last year and you need more support in how to use the toolkit on this website, please consider attending one of the new staff trainings on Friday or Monday. Okay, so as we've been using for several years now, we also have a Padlet that we created called a dashboard, which is a one-stop shop for kind of everybody that's participating in the program. And if it might be helpful if you want to go ahead and use your phone to scan the QR code or put this link in your computer and pull it up, and you can look at it while I'm talking through it. I'm not actually going to stop sharing and do it live. I'm just going to do some screenshots today. Josie's going to put that link in the chat. So if you, I've gone past that QR code, but you can click on the link in the chat and still access it. This actually is a screenshot from a couple of years ago, and I'm using it because it's complete. The one I have set up for this year doesn't have all the bookworms on it or anything yet. So it was a little harder to talk about it. But it is set up and ready to go. So the dashboard is really just our current participants. It is a non-public site. It is interactive, and it is set up so that you can share and contribute ideas and resources with each other. You do not need to set up an account in order to use this. You do not need special access. Once you click the link, it takes you right here and you can just begin using it. If you want to set up an account, it will always automatically put your name on any of your posts for you. But you don't have to set up an account. You can also follow this Padlet, but I would caution you about that, because every time somebody uploads something, you get an email, and I upload quite a bit. So you tend to get a lot of emails about every time somebody puts something on here, which I found annoying, but you do you. So on here, you're going to be able to find all of the due dates for things that are coming up, like confirming your partner numbers or meeting with your sites, all of the surveys, all of the final reports, all of those things are going to be on here. There's also just some additional miscellaneous resources, and you'll see in a minute, I actually, there's more on this year's Padlet than there was on the one I'm showing you right here. And then your bookworms, those are uploaded to the ICFL Bookworm website, but I don't put them up until really like the last couple days of the month or the first couple days of the next month. But here, I upload them as soon as I get them done. So you can usually find them earlier and have earlier access by pulling them off of here. So as soon as I have things ready and they've been proofed, I upload them. The key here, pink, yellow, green, is for the age group. And then each month has all of the books that we're using. Also the cover letters that you get in your boxes, those will be uploaded here. And this year, I'm also going to be adding some additional due dates and deadlines just right at the very top of the column for you to try to, again, just make it handy. Also, all of our Spanish translations of the books will be here. And anytime I find, like a read aloud or a resource, I upload it. So there's, everything you need each month is here. And this is also where we want you to upload. So it's been mentioned many, many times that people really could use some ideas and suggestions for story times. And the way that this Padlet is set up makes it super easy for you to be able to share those things. Again, listening to some feedback from the final reports, I added in the miscellaneous resource column this year, just some notes on how to navigate, because again, it's sometimes not easy to see. At the very, very bottom of the Padlet, and if you are following along, if you have this pulled up on your own, you can kind of see there is a scroll bar at the very bottom. It's very hard to see. I don't know why they don't make it bigger. But there is a scroll bar and you just will pull and grab that to navigate right and left. To scroll vertically up and down, you can't do the whole Padlet up and down, but you have to do it by column. So you're just going to hover over the column, find that scroll bar to the right, and you can pull that up or down, or you can just hover over the column and use that little wheel on your mouse and go up and down that way. So that's how you navigate. Okay. I also, on actually several of your final reports, there were comments about really liking the ideas and suggestions and resources that you all were uploading, but that you wish that there were more. And I do too, because you all have really wonderful ideas and resources. So doing two incentives this year to sort of encourage a little bit more engagement with the dashboard. So the first one is something I would love for each of you to do from now until the end of September. If you scroll horizontally, the scroll bar at the very bottom, all the way to May and right past it, you'll see a column called Participating Library Staff. This is, I think, a really great way. It serves two purposes. Number one, we get to know a little bit about each other. And also it makes you engage with the Padlet for those of you who were resistant to upload stuff last year. So this kind of, it's a carrot, not a stick. So what I want you to do is kind of follow these directions and just choose one thing. After you click the little plus button here and start a new post, add your library, your name, your role, your contact info. If you are comfortable with sharing it, you don't have to. And then you'll have the opportunity to upload a document, a photo, a video. There's a bunch of different ways that you can engage in and share content. You'll see the different little icons. Play around with that and just upload something that you can share that will help us get to know you a little bit. I uploaded a photo of me and my friend Kate from one of the conferences here. So just to give you an example, everybody who does this and puts their little profile on here, and remember, this is not publicly facing, it's just for us. I'm going to draw 5 names at the end of, the first part of October. And I have 5 copies of this really great hardcover Mega Predators of the Past by Melissa Stewart, because as hopefully you know by now, the summer reading theme this coming next summer for 2026 is dinosaurs. So this will be a great book to add to your collection. So there's that. Also, every time you upload content, I'm going to count that as one entry into a drawing. And it can be anything. It could be something for that month's story time, one of the age groups. It could be something under the early literacy event. It could be something under just general resources or miscellaneous resources, something cool you found, whatever it is. Every time you upload something, it is an entry into a drawing and at the beginning part of May, I will put all of those entries in and draw out one name to win a tablet, it's a Galaxy tablet and a case that goes with it. So thank you to Jeannie Standall, our school library consultant, for the tablet. This was an extra one from Summer Summit 2024. Might not be able to do this every year, but we are going to do it this year, hoping to encourage a little bit more engagement and sharing of those wonderful resources that you all have. Okay, Also, just want to note that every year on final reports, I usually get a few suggestions saying, hey, it would be great if we could have hardcovers of the books to read for story time, or at least get preview copies so we can see the book. I agree that would be great. But what it does come down to is funding, and um, hardcovers are, that is a chunk of money to provide those. But even preview copies, um, if you do the math at $3.50 per book and all of the libraries and all of the titles, it really can add up to a couple $1,000s, which is more children that we could serve instead of doing that. So I'm sure you would agree that the money is best spent making sure we can get as many kiddos served with the program as possible. However, when I do come across a good read aloud, I will upload it. If you come across a good read aloud of one of these books, you can upload it. I think that almost, with the exception of some of our board books this year and maybe one or more other titles, Josie and I were able to find just about all of the titles this year on YouTube. So if you don't have a copy of the book, you can go ahead and pull up a YouTube video and you can see that ahead of time. Also, we do have an annotated bibliography that we do every year. This is the one for this year. And so you have all of the titles for the whole year ahead of time, as do your teachers. So you can also share this with any of the districts who are now requiring you to submit a list of the titles you're going to be handing out at the beginning of the year so that they can approve them. We know that there has been increased sensitivity about the content in children's literature these days. And it is impossible to know what might offend one parent or a caregiver or teacher, or even one of our librarians as opposed to another. Parents and caregivers have always had the option to visit their local library, and they can exchange a title that they feel does not align with their own family's beliefs, and they can choose another title that they can add to their home library instead. It's not a common occurrence, but I can give you a handful of additional books, just different titles to have on site for this purpose if you don't have other paperbacks left over from other programs or something that you can hand out. This gives them that option. I will say that I've read thousands of surveys over the last 15, 17 years, and hundreds of final reports from the libraries, and rarely are there comments about the titles that anyone finds objectionable. But we're kind of in a different climate right now. And the most important goal of this program is to increase the amount of reading that is done in the home. So if a few families come in to exchange a book for one that they will sit down and read with their kids every night, we are okay with providing that option. And on the library's end, I do welcome feedback from you about the titles. You're welcome and encouraged to suggest titles for future program years. These are the titles that are selected for the year, the ones you're seeing here, and you must agree to distribute all of the designated titles if you want to participate this year. If you do have any issues with any of the selected titles for this year, you need to connect with me now, at least by September 1st. And you have the option to withdraw your library from the program. But if I don't hear from you by September 1st, I'm going to assume that there's no issues and with any of the age groups you're serving, and we're all good to go for the year. If you have questions, I just want to say too, I'm going to do a question and answer at the end after I stop recording. And so just go ahead and hold on to those for now, and we'll address those a little bit later. Okay. Talk just a little bit about a few reminders about the titles. You know, when we're choosing the books, we're looking for high quality, engaging titles that are encouraging the parents and caregivers to sing, talk, read, write, play with their young children, and also that reflect the diverse characteristics of the children who are receiving them. Because the titles support adult-child book sharing, in which the adults can use the components of dialogic reading, predicting and, narrative skills and all of that, some of these books may not actually be that great for group story time. You'll need to use your storytime expertise. Because again, we're not choosing the titles for story time. and you have a lot of flexibility in how you deliver your story time. You can choose to just do a book talk about one of the titles if it's not a super great one to use for story time, and then get them excited to read that book with their parent or caregiver without actually needing to read the whole book there for story time. So that gives you, and then you can choose something else to read instead. Um, Mostly the titles that we are choosing are really just depending on which ones we can get the quantities we need by the time we need them, and that hit our price point. So, in terms of choosing titles, that's kind of what we're restricted to. But also the books are chosen based on developmental age of the groups. So please do not substitute one book for another. If you have, say you have somebody show up, another kid show up in your class that you weren't expecting, um, just, there are other ways to address that. So, and please do not get your months confused, because the bookworms do focus in on those books or those skills. Okay. Just, yeah, general rule of thumb, don't substitute anything unless you reach out to me. Sometimes there's a need for that. One year we had a library who a wonderful volunteer came and bought all of the kids a copy of the same book to provide to them at the beginning of the year. It happened to be our October book. So, so we had to find some other way to address that then. And we can help you with that. Okay, so a couple of program updates for this year. One of the things I want to let you know is that the Microsoft Publisher is going to go away fall of 2026. And so throughout the year, I am going to be switching the format of the bookworms from Publisher to Canva. I'm not going to start off that way because the beginning of the year is just so crazy, and I am not super great in Canva yet. I'm still learning. But at some point throughout the year, they are going to switch to Canva. If you have an issue, if you're customizing the bookworms or you're pulling them up for some other way and you can't use them in Canva, just reach out and we can try to figure something else out for you. But know that by the fall of 2026, none of us are going to be able to open a publisher file. So we need to I'm going to give ourselves this year for all of us to get a little bit better at something else. Also letting you know that I'm going to go ahead and add everyone to the early learning listserv, because I really think there's so many important things we put out on that particular listserv that I'm not going to be putting out on Live Idaho. There are a lot of folks that are subscribed to Live Idaho these days who are not necessarily library supporters, to be perfectly honest. And so more and more of what I am putting out is going to be on our locked down listserv, or, like on our dashboard that's not public facing. There was sort of a little cryptic note about some changes that would really impact your libraries, and I'll address that. We were told originally that ICFL was going to need to close for 2 months this fall to replace our HVAC, which was going to mean that we were going to have to send you 4 months worth of books within a 6-week period. The good news is that is going to get pushed back. The bad news is it's still going to happen, but it's not going to happen until like March, April. So in the spring, we won't have access to the building. We won't have access to our basement. So as it gets closer, I'll remind you of this, but we will need to probably send you at least like your May books are going to probably come a couple months early. So I know some of you are doing your own remodeling and things. We'll connect and we'll make sure we have backup plans for everything, but you will need to do some extra storage come March and April. But it will only be for a couple months and not for 4. Another change is that we do this program calendar that we create every year. It's a really great resource. We do one version that is just for our libraries. that has things like the estimated arrival of when your books are going to come, the days that ICFL is closed, some other events and, conferences and things like that, and then lots of helpful hints. So, and then we also do a different version for your partners. It looks kind of the same, but it's very different, and it's tailored to them, and things that they can do to make sure that your partnership works really well. Again, from reading through your final reports, more and more of you are not using the printed copy of the library calendar, and more of you are relying on the dashboard, which is great. So I did create a version of the library calendar this year, but I'm not going to print it and give it to everybody because, again, I'm trying to serve more kids. We're a lot more restricted this year, and I want to be very intentional about where the funding is going. So I'm not going to be printing these for you, but we will print partner calendars. However, I may not print one for every classroom that you put down that you have. I might minimize that number just a little bit and let people share or print them off of the website. Anything else about this? Oh, just also, we've also have every year we get requests to create a Google Calendar. I just don't have the capacity to do that, but if one of you is interested in doing it, or you've created one already, please feel free to share that on the dashboard that others could copy and use. I think that would be great. And I will include some of the special dates, holidays, celebration conferences, et cetera, on the dashboard. But I still think you should, if you can, it's good to read each month's helpful hints. It does just kind of give you some reminders. Estimated delivery is around the 20th of each month. Last year, we did have some delivery issues, so please look for the boxes around the 20th. And if you don't get them by about the 25th or so, reach out to us so that we can start looking. And then also make sure that you're counting your books. Open your box, actually physically take out the books and count them. That's what we mean by inventory them when they come, so that we can make sure if you're short, you have time for us to send you the books that you need. Once again, we also have these end pages in the calendar that especially for the partners with the titles, and then also just kind of how we go about selecting the titles for the year. Okay, so if you haven't already peeked, here are the titles for the year. Some of you are serving blind and visually impaired children, and we can provide some books in Braille for you if I know now or close to now. If you let me know pretty soon how many you would need, I can order a few of those. And I did that for one of our programs where they had several kids that were in a BVI program. So the Braille selection for preschool is not super extensive, but we always make it work so that they do get something in Braille. Developmental preschools. A lot of you are working with developmental preschools. Some preschool kids have developmental delays that are significant enough that they have trouble handling a paperback book. If the teachers are requesting that these children receive board books, reach out to me. We may be able to provide some age-appropriate board books for small groups of children that do have those specific needs. What we don't want to do is take everybody in a developmental preschool class and give them a board book because that's what their teachers want, even though they can physically turn the pages of a paperback book. Because board books, we want to keep those really for the babies and toddlers. But we can provide some. Okay, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting today, there were some challenges brought about by the funding uncertainties this spring. When we received the first allotment of funds in May, we had to have them spent by June. And so Josie and I ordered several titles based on the number of children that we could serve at that time. Then when we received titles for the additional allotment of funding, We were not able to repurchase all the titles we had already purchased due to availability or price point. So there are 3 months this year in which some of the preschool children will receive a different title. If your library does not serve Spanish speaking families and you don't need to access a Spanish translation of the original title, we might be sending you that alternate title. And the alternate titles are listed on the program dashboard. So if you go to those columns, you can see what the alternate titles are, except for Pancakes for Breakfast for March. I don't have one selected yet for that because I'm going to wait and see how many copies I actually need to order once our numbers have stabilized a little bit. You'll see that this is marked with an asterisk on each one. So, and it does say that the kids might receive a different title for those. Okay, just a few quick reminders. Every child needs to have a letter of introduction to the program with their first distribution, whether that is in October or they join throughout the year. So I would make extra copies of these, keep them handy. When you're giving out books to kids who start after the program has started, make sure that they get this book or this letter. The number of parents who tell me they had no idea that their kid was in this program is diminishing every year, but I still read that because I do read the parent surveys. I'm still getting them. So just a reminder to give them the letter. You can't make them read it, but we can at least give it to them. Okay, so as you know, you're going to be connecting with your partners as soon as possible. And as soon as I have the calendars printed, I will send them to you. If you have it ready, give them their calendar when you meet. If not, you can give it to them later. You might also consider providing that annotated bibliography and book list so that they know which books they're going to be handing out throughout the year. Sometimes we have classrooms that aren't going to be starting until later in the year. They couldn't hire a teacher, or they're still signing up and enrolling kids that will be in another classroom or something. That's fine. We can talk about how to serve them, but if they're going to be starting after the first of the year, I think we need to just let them go because at that point, you don't have the ability to develop those relationships quite as strongly. They don't have the same amount of books. The program gets a little bit watered down after that. So take the little distribution plan worksheet, review the titles with the teachers now. We want them to look at the titles and we want them to agree that they're going to hand out all the titles that we've chosen. Again, I don't think there's going to be an issue with any of the titles that we've chosen, but I never think that. And just give them the opportunity now so that they know what they're committing to. And I just want to make the plea not to schedule your distributions in the first week of every month, if you can avoid it, because you don't get those books till the 20th. If they take longer to ship, if one of your patrons signs for the box, which has happened, if FedEx damages your box and doesn't tell anybody, and we can't get books to you, until later, having your distributions in the first week of the month really restricts our ability to help you get those books that you need. So just really encouraging you to push those out if you can. Sometimes you don't have a choice with the request of your partner, but just reminding you to utilize the space we're giving you for the bookworms. And you can do that in several different ways, stickers or word templates. I loved what NAMPA did a couple of years ago. I don't know if they did this last year, but this was a little thing that they included on every bookworm with a little QR code, which was awesome. And also, I love the faces here because, again, it puts a face to the library so the parents know who to look for when if they do come in, especially if they are a little hesitant about coming in. Reminding you that we do have these resources for your Spanish-speaking families. You're going to ask your partner during your first meeting, there's actually a box to check on that distribution plan about whether or not having materials in Spanish would be helpful. There are a few bilingual titles this year. Spanish translations will be up on the dashboard as soon as Ismail gets them proofed. Had some comments about maybe some mistakes being in these last year. So we're gonna, Ismail and I talked about that. We're gonna work on a little bit of more proofing there to make sure that those are all accurate. Okay, I know there's always so much to remember. I'm throwing a lot at you in a short amount of time. My best advice, read your cover letter every month because that is going to have all these things in there so that you don't have to try to keep everything in your head. And again, if you misplace this cover letter, your hard copy, it's going to be on the dashboard. So you can pull it up and reread it. There'll be live links. It just makes it easy for you to be able to click around and get where you need to go and know what you need to know. We're not going to talk a ton about the early literacy event today because we tended to talk about those during our check-in session, and there's just never really enough time today because today, honestly, you're just getting a lot of information. It's not so much a discussion, but we will discuss this later in the year. Reading through your final reports, again, come back to if you have a question about what is eligible for your early literacy event, come back to that outcome. We want the parents to increase their knowledge about early literacy. So that's why we have you do a workshop or an event for your My First Books families that somehow is communicating that information about early literacy. That can be, nope, looks like my little animation didn't work. Never mind. That can be lots of different ways, and it doesn't have to just be for My First Books families. You can have it open to the general public and try to track the My First Books families. You can get really creative. We just want you to try to at some point make sure you are getting that early literacy piece across to the parents. Reading through your final reports, so many awesome events last year, so many different kinds of events. I listed some of them here about ways you were able to meet this requirement, but none of those were on our column. I would love it if you would share more about what you're planning to do or what you did in this early literacy event column on the dashboard. And remember, every time you post something, you can enter it another time in the drawing. So I know you're all busy and it's one more thing, but if you can share a little bit, that'd be great. There was so many great ideas about inviting trucks for Touch a Truck and dental screenings, and my goodness, just so many awesome things were happening last year. So let's share some of that. If you want to share what you did last year, that'd be fine too. Just to give other people ideas, especially our newer folks. A lot of people will use Family Reading Week events for their My First Book events. That's just fine. This week, Family Reading Week is Stories Under the Stars theme here. Our November title is The Skills for Phonological Awareness, but it's based on kind of a space theme. So space, night, reading, bedtime. Josie has put together some wonderful resources for you. Josie is now taking the lead for Family Reading Week, by the way, if you didn't know that. And she's got everything ready to go. Just about registration is going to open for that on September 15th. And she put the link to the Family Reading Week website in the chat for you. So you can learn more there. And also, I think there was a bunch of stuff in the scoop last week. All right, let's take a minute to talk about numbers. When we're talking about numbers, we're talking about the kids who are enrolled with your partner sites that you're serving every month. We want you to choose, if you have several people, looking at you there, Orchard Park, and everybody in the room there, and there's several of you that have a big staff who are doing this program. Please choose one lead as the coordinator for your library. That person is going to be the one who's going to submit the stuff, submit the request forms, submit the enrollment forms. Anytime there's a shortage or an increase, we're going to hear from one person. And the reason that we ask that is that if you're not talking to each other, we're getting conflicting information, and it takes more time on our part to try to get it all sorted out. So please pick one person to be the numbers wrangler. When you apply in the spring, your partners are giving you an estimate of what the number of slots that they think they're going to have, number of kids for each age group. This is an estimate. I have based all of our ordering for the year on this estimate. However, we need to try to get those numbers more accurate because, as you all know, being returning people, returning staff, the numbers change sometimes quite a bit between what you submitted in the spring and what actually is the number of kids actually enrolled in the fall. So when we get these from your application, we put them into a master spreadsheet for the year. So every library has a line, and we keep track of your enrollment for each age level and your total. Then we need to keep that spreadsheet as accurate as possible. So what we ask you to do one time between now and September, hopefully between September 15th, by September 15th, is we want you to basically confirm what the enrollment numbers are now compared to what they were in the spring. So we have a special form that we want you to fill out. And I'm taking some time on this because even with returning staff, there's confusion every year about which form to use to let us know about changes. The confirmation of enrollment form you do once a year. Not only does it have what your real numbers are, but it also confirms who your contact person is going to be, where we should ship those books. It also asks you if you want us to print bookworms for you in Spanish and which age groups and how many. And just really kind of updates everything that was on the application. Some of these were submitted 6 months ago, and a lot can change. So this is basically confirming or revising your application. You can find this on the dashboard and in the program toolkit. So this we want you to try to do by the 15th. And the reason we say the 15th is that that's when we're going to box up your first order of books. So everybody who can confirm this number by then is going to get a little more accurate box of books. If we're still basing this on last spring's numbers because you haven't confirmed it, then it might not be accurate when you get it. Keeping track can be hard, especially if you're working with developmental preschool because they're identifying kids throughout the year and adding them to the program. So remember that we did develop a spreadsheet you can use, or you can create one like it that helps you with all your partners and all your totals for each age group so that you can track that every month. And it's easier than if you do need to request additional books later, you have that information right here at your fingertips. So once I check everybody off the list, they have gotten their enrollment form in. Once everybody has gotten this in, I'm taking it off. It's going to go away because we don't use it anymore. From here on out, then we're going to use this regular request form. You're going to use that if you have enrollment increases. You're going to use it if we miscount and your order's not accurate, your inventory is short, or sometimes you got the wrong title. You're going to use that form. Or if you have to report a decrease of more than like between 5 and 10. If you have a decrease of just a couple, I don't care. Keep the books, use them for something else. But if it's, a significant change, then go ahead and report that too. I want you to really become familiar with the phrase enrollment total or total enrollment, because the enrollment total entered on the request forms are often off. They don't match what we have in our master spreadsheet. So that's something I think I want to try to make a goal for everybody this year is let's all try to be on the same page about what we have down for you, because we update that every time you submit this form. We will update our spreadsheet. And if you tell us something different, then it's just all kinds of messed up. Our process is basically, I do a mail merge every month into your cover letter. And right here, you can check and see what we had for you when we sent those books. So compare that to what you have written down for that enrollment total. Your enrollment total is not how many kids are at Lolly Wyatt Head Start or the Ponderosa Elementary. It's not per partner site. I don't keep track of your partner sites after really now. I'm just looking at your total enrollment for each age group so that we know how many books to pack up for you to do your distributions every month. So try to keep that in your head, that the number you're putting on that request form for your new enrollment total, if you have new kids, is what we are going to put in here and in your box. So we have to try to make sure that's accurate. Okay, I know we're getting close to the end of time here. Surveys, again, April, May, same time of year, you'll get those in your box. If you, and probably with your May books in April. They were a little early last year. If you need them sooner, if you have an event or something that you're trying to use them for, let me know and I can send you yours early. And then quick little note about your final summary. It's always due June 1st. There's a lot of stuff due June 1st. So I would really like for you to put a note on your calendar now so that you can make a plan if you have a lot of stuff due on June 1st to still get that report in on time. I just respectfully request that you get it in on time or reach out to me ahead of time for an extension. Fine with that, giving you an extension. But it takes quite a bit of staff time for those of you who don't get it submitted by June 1st to follow up with you. And we have so many other things that our staff need to be doing. So let's try to make this a goal this year too, to get those reports in on time or ask for an extension. Lots of things to help you keep track of when things are due to use. The monthly data sheet here lets you just sort of track, how many books, how many contact hours. On the back of that is a new story time template that you can use that helps you make sure that you are getting the kids moving in between reading stories. So that's a little something that's new. Check that out on the dashboard or the toolkit. And take a minute while you're eating your sandwich next time to go through and just sort of reread the recommendations and tips for the different various parts of the program, because every year that you do this, you know a little bit more, but also you're able to grasp a little bit more. And there are things in some of these recommendations and tips where you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So just reread those. Okay. This kind of brings us to wrapping things up for today. The next steps for you all is, of course, to contact your partners ASAP, set up a meeting, give them their calendars if they're ready. If they're not, give them as soon as I get them sent to you. Confirm your number of children in each age group, which is your total enrollment for each age group. Use this worksheet to plan out your visits, because you might forget, if you're not, that you need to be asking them about these things. And also, we want to make sure that those partners are agreeing to hand out every title in the program. They really need to kind of commit to that. And then get that form in, your enrollment form, in by September 15th, if possible. As soon as possible after that, if you're not able to get it in by the 15th. And then also visit the dashboard and add your post. We want to get to know you a little bit better. And it's after the May columns at the very end. Try to do that by September 30th, because I'll do the drawing the first part of October. And just letting you know that I went ahead and scheduled the first 2 months of check-in meetings. They're on the calendar. That's on the program toolkit. The first one's September 25th at 1:30. I will send out an Outlook invite. These are optional, so you can decline the invite if you want. But we'd love to see you all there. Just good discussions that we focus on every month. Okay. So with that concludes my portion of the orientation. I'm going to stop recording and take any questions. I just want to tell you all that I'm really looking forward to another great year and to bringing in a new team to help support your work with this program.